To study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be enlightened by all things. These words emerge from the depths of Zazen itself, from a master who crossed an ocean searching for what he already possessed. Dogen spoke this truth not as theory, but as direct transmission of what happens when you finally stop running and simply sit. The path begins precisely where you are, in this breath, on this cushion, in this very moment that you have been fleeing your entire life. You have been searching, perhaps for years now, moving from teaching to teaching, from book to book, from technique to technique, always believing that the next insight will be the one that finally completes you. You attend retreats and accumulate experiences like precious stones, carefully cataloging your spiritual progress, measuring how far you have come. And yet something remains unsatisfied. Something continues to whisper that you have not yet arrived. This restlessness itself is the barrier. This constant seeking is the very mechanism that prevents discovery. The cushion sits empty, waiting. How many times have you promised yourself that tomorrow you will begin a serious practice? Tomorrow you will wake early and sit before the demands of the day consume you. Tomorrow you will finally give yourself to the stillness that you know, somewhere deep within, holds the answer you seek. But tomorrow never comes, does it? Because the mind that makes plans for tomorrow is the same mind that cannot sit today. It is the same mind that believes enlightenment exists somewhere else, in some other time, requiring some special preparation you have not yet completed. What stops you from sitting right now? Notice the resistance that rises when you even consider dropping everything and taking your seat. Notice how the mind immediately produces a list of urgent matters that must be addressed first. There are emails to answer, tasks to complete, people who need you, obligations that cannot wait. And beneath all these practical excuses lies something deeper, something more terrifying than mere inconvenience. You are afraid of what you might find in the silence. Or perhaps more accurately, you are afraid of what you might not find there. You have constructed an identity over decades, a story about who you are, what you need, where you are going. This story requires constant maintenance. It needs experiences to confirm it, achievements to validate it, problems to solve so it can demonstrate its competence. The prospect of sitting still and doing nothing threatens this entire elaborate construction, because in genuine Zazen, there is no story. There is no progress. There is no you moving toward enlightenment. There is only this moment, exactly as it is, requiring nothing, lacking nothing, complete beyond all concepts of completion. Shikantaza means just sitting, just this, nothing added, nothing taken away. Not sitting in order to become calm, not sitting to achieve enlightenment, not even sitting to understand. Simply the pure act of sitting with body and mind dropped away. But the mind rebels against this simplicity. It insists there must be more, some technique to master, some state to attain. It wants to turn sitting itself into another achievement, another item to check off the spiritual to-do list. Watch how quickly the mind moves to evaluate. You sit down, and within moments it begins its commentary. This sitting is good. This sitting is bad. I am concentrated today. I am distracted today. My posture is correct. My posture has collapsed. This is real practice. This is just wasting time. Notice how this constant evaluation removes you from the actual experience of sitting. You are no longer present to what is. You have split yourself into the one who sits and the one who watches and judges the sitting. This split is suffering itself. The breath moves in and out. You do not make this happen. The heart beats. The blood flows. Thoughts arise and dissolve. Sensations appear and disappear. All of this unfolds by itself, requiring no effort, no controller, no one to make it happen. And yet the mind jumps in, claiming credit or assigning blame, trying to manage what is already perfectly managing itself. This is the fundamental delusion, this sense of being a separate self who must control life, rather than simply being the life that is already happening. When you truly sit, when you drop into the reality beneath the narrative, something astonishing reveals itself. The problem you thought you had to solve dissolves because it was never actually a problem in reality. It was only a problem in the story you were telling about reality. The anxiety about the future, the regret about the past, the dissatisfaction with the present, all of this exists only in thought, only in the mind's incessant commentary. The actual moment, this one right here, contains no problem whatsoever. Life simply unfolds, neither good nor bad, neither right nor wrong, just this exact expression of existence that could not be otherwise. You might object that real problems exist. There is pain in the body. There are difficulties to navigate. There are losses to grieve. And this is true. But notice the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is sensation moving through the body. Suffering is the story the mind tells about that pain, the resistance to it, the demand that it be different, the fear of what it means, the projection into a future where it continues forever. When you sit with pain without the story, something remarkable happens. The pain is still there, but the suffering around it begins to dissolve. The sensation exists, but the prison of narrative opens. This is not about transcending difficulty or rising above human experience. It is about meeting experience directly, without the filter of judgment and preference. When you sit, you are not trying to have good experiences instead of bad ones. You are not attempting to cultivate positive states and eliminate negative ones. You are learning to be present to whatever arises, to meet life as it actually is rather than as you wish it to be. This is the great freedom. Not freedom from difficulty, but freedom within difficulty. Not the absence of challenge, but the end of resistance to challenge. The practice continues even when you are not formally sitting. Each moment becomes an opportunity for Zazen mind. Washing dishes becomes complete washing of dishes, no thought leaking toward what comes next. Walking becomes just walking, each step fully experienced, no destination pulling you out of the journey. Speaking becomes complete speaking, words arising from silence and returning to silence, no self-consciousness fragmenting the expression. This is the practice that has no beginning and no ending, the practice that is simply life lived awake. But you must actually sit. Understanding these words changes nothing. Agreeing with these ideas accomplishes nothing. You can read every text, study every teaching, grasp every concept, and remain completely untransformed. Because transformation does not happen through knowledge. It happens through direct experience, through the actual meeting of reality that occurs when you finally stop, take your seat, and allow yourself to be exactly as you are. The cushion demands nothing from you. It does not require that you be calm or concentrated or enlightened. It asks only that you show up, that you take your seat, that you be willing to meet this moment without agenda. And in that meeting, something begins to shift. Not because you are doing something right, not because you have finally found the correct technique, but because you have stopped doing altogether. You have ceased the exhausting effort of trying to be someone other than who you are. Dogen crossed the ocean to China, studied with countless masters, drove himself to exhaustion seeking the truth. And what did he discover? That enlightenment is not hidden somewhere distant, requiring special access or secret knowledge. It is here, now, in the simple act of sitting, in the dropping away of body and mind, in the forgetting of self that allows reality to reveal itself. He returned to Japan not with new teachings accumulated from his travels, but with the simple instruction to sit. Just sit. Everything you seek is present in that sitting. You carry so much. The weight of your past, the burden of your mistakes, the heaviness of your unlived dreams, the pressure of expectations, both your own and others. You carry identities and roles, masks and performances, the exhausting effort of maintaining the image you present to the world. You carry wounds that have never healed because you have never stopped moving long enough to feel them fully. You carry fears about the future, anxiety about outcomes, worry about whether you are enough, whether you have done enough, whether you will ever arrive at the place you are trying so desperately to reach. And then you sit. And in the sitting, gradually, inevitably, this burden begins to dissolve. Not because you are trying to let it go, not because you have developed some special technique for releasing, but simply because in the actual present moment, none of this weight exists. It exists only in thought, only in the story. When you drop into direct experience, into the bare sensation of breathing, into the simple fact of existing, The burden falls away by itself. What remains is lighter than anything you imagined possible. This lightness is not emptiness in the sense of lacking something. It is fullness so complete that nothing can be added. When the self drops away, when the endless project of self-improvement and self-protection finally ceases, what remains is simply life living itself through this form. And that life is abundant beyond measure. The breath is a miracle. The sensation of the body is extraordinary. The sound of a bird, the feeling of air on skin, the taste of water, all of this reveals itself as sacred when you are no longer filtering it through preference and judgment. You have been taught to seek peak experiences, to chase after special states of consciousness, to believe that enlightenment is some extraordinary condition radically different from your ordinary experience. And so you sit hoping for visions, waiting for insights, expecting some dramatic transformation that will finally prove that your practice is working. But the truth is far more ordinary and far more radical than any special experience. The truth is this breath, this sensation, this moment, not as a stepping stone to some better moment, but as the full expression of reality itself. When you stop trying to get somewhere, you discover you have already arrived. When you stop trying to become enlightened, you realize that awareness itself is the enlightenment you sought. You are already the Buddha nature you hope to attain. You have always been it. You could never not be it. The whole search was unnecessary, a dream of lack superimposed on the fullness that never left. And yet the practice continues, because the realization that you are already enlightened does not mean you stop sitting. It means you sit differently, no longer seeking, no longer striving, no longer trying to achieve some future state, just sitting for the sake of sitting, just this moment expressing itself through the form of your sitting. Practice and enlightenment are not two separate things, one leading to the other. They are the same reality seen clearly. The ego hates this teaching. It wants steps and stages, levels and attainments. It wants to know where it is on the path, how much progress it has made, how close it is to the goal. It wants to maintain control, to keep itself at the center of the spiritual journey. But genuine practice deconstructs this entire framework. There is no path because there is nowhere to go. There is no progress because there is nothing to improve. There is no goal because you are already what you seek. This is threatening to the small self, to the identity that has invested everything in the belief that it is incomplete and must do something to become complete. And so resistance arises. Doubt whispers that this teaching is too simple, that there must be more, that you must be missing something. The mind generates endless questions and objections, anything to avoid the simple instruction to sit and find the truth. But questions are fine. Doubt is fine. Resistance is fine. None of this prevents practice. You do not need to resolve all your doubts before you sit. You do not need to understand everything before you begin. You simply sit, and in the sitting, the questions begin to dissolve, not because they are answered, but because they are seen through. They are recognized as movements of mind, weather passing through the vast sky of awareness, clouds that form and reform but never touch the space in which they appear. The sky does not reject clouds. It does not try to be cloudless. It allows everything, embraces everything, resists nothing. And this is the quality of mind that Zazen cultivates. Not a mind that is always peaceful or always concentrated, but a mind that is spacious enough to allow whatever arises. Anger arises, and there is space for it. Fear arises, and there is space for it. Joy arises. Sadness arises. Boredom arises. All of it welcomed, all of it allowed, none of it a problem. This spaciousness is your true nature. You are not the content of experience. You are the context in which experience arises. You are not the thoughts that pass through awareness. You are the awareness itself, and awareness is never disturbed by what it is aware of. The mirror reflects everything, but is changed by nothing. This is what you discover in Zazen. You are the mirror, not the reflection. But again, this is not something you figure out intellectually. The mind cannot grasp its own nature through thinking. It can only know itself directly, through the stopping of thought, through the settling into pure presence. And this settling happens in sitting. The body becomes still, and gradually the mind follows. The breath slows, the nervous system calms, the endless churning of thought begins to quiet. And in that quiet, something else emerges. Not silence as the opposite of noise, but silence as the ground from which all sound arises and to which all sound returns. In this silence, you are met, not by someone or something external, but by your own deepest nature. The self you thought you were dissolves, and what remains is both nothing and everything. Nothing in the sense that no separate entity can be found. Everything in the sense that you are the entire field of experience, not separate from anything that appears within it. Subject and object collapse into a single movement of reality, experiencing itself. This is what the ancestors discovered. This is what they attempted to point toward with their words and their silence, with their shouts and their whispers, with their paradoxes and their perfect ordinariness. They were not describing something distant or theoretical. They were sharing the actual taste of reality, the direct knowing that comes when all mediation ceases. And they insist that this knowing is available to you right now, in this very moment. You do not need to be special. You do not need to have accumulated decades of practice. You do not need to be pure or perfect or free from problems. You need only to be willing to sit, to show up, to meet this moment without all your usual defenses and strategies. The gate is always open. It has never been closed. You have been standing in front of it your entire life, waiting for permission to enter, believing you must first become worthy. But there is no one guarding the gate, and there is nothing you must do to earn entry. You simply walk through. You simply sit down. You simply allow yourself to be exactly as you are. And in that allowing, the search ends. Not because you have found what you were looking for, but because you realize there was never anything missing. The hole you were trying to fill was imaginary. The lack you were trying to remedy was a creation of thought. The self you were trying to improve was a fiction from the beginning. What remains when this fiction is seen through? Nothing special, just this breath, just this moment, just the ordinary, extraordinary reality of being alive. The cup of tea is just a cup of tea, but it is also the entire universe expressing itself through the form of this drinking. The sound of rain is just the sound of rain, but it is also the infinite singing itself into manifestation. Everything is exactly as it appears, and everything is also the sacred made visible. This is the truth you sit to find, not a truth separate from life, not a special insight that removes you from the human experience, but the truth of life itself, the reality that has always been present, but was obscured by the cloud of thought, by the prison of self-reference, by the endless seeking that prevented arriving. Sit and find the truth. Not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, not when you feel ready. Now, take your seat, straighten your back, lower your gaze, let the breath breathe itself. Let thoughts rise and fall without following them. Let sensations appear and disappear without grasping or pushing away. Just sit. Just this. Nothing more needed. Nothing lacking. The truth you seek is the very act of seeking clearly seen. The enlightenment you chase is the awareness in which the chasing appears. And when you rise from the cushion, when you return to the activities of life, something has shifted. Not dramatically, not obviously, but definitely. There is a little more space, a little more ease, a little less identification with the narrative, a little more presence to what actually is. And this continues to deepen. Day by day, sitting by sitting, moment by moment, the dream of separation grows thinner until one day you realize it was never there at all. This is the invitation. Not to believe anything, not to adopt some new philosophy, but to verify for yourself through direct experience. Sit and find the truth. Not the truth according to some ancient master, not the truth described in spiritual texts, but your truth, the living reality that cannot be spoken but can only be known in the marrow of your bones. The cushion waits. It has infinite patience. It does not judge whether you come or stay away, but the opportunity it offers is precious beyond measure. The opportunity to stop running, the opportunity to come home to yourself, the opportunity to discover that you were never actually lost. Everything you need is already present. The wisdom you seek is not hidden in some distant realm. It is here, in the rising and falling of breath, in the sensation of body, in the awareness that knows all of this. You are not separate from this awareness. You are this awareness taking the temporary form of a person who believes they must seek what they already are. Let that belief dissolve. Let the seeker disappear into the act of seeking. Let the one who sits vanish into the sitting. What remains is just this, just reality as it is, just the truth that needs no finding because it has never been lost, just the eternal present moment, forever here, forever now, forever inviting you to simply be.